You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the #1 in nationalist news.
Headlines today, the 20th of August. Wife of Communist Party leader receives suspended death sentence. A total of 13 arrested so far in connection with oil executive's death. Europe is burning whilst the EU fiddles. Eurozone finances in brief. Christian girl 11 arrested in Pakistan. Pussy riot put behind bars, if only for their name. Thought for the day, Twitter, tweeting and troubles. And finally, Dairy Queen kills samurai sword wielding robber. UK news. The death sentence suspended for 2 years says that justice has been done for the British businessman killed by the wife of Communist Party political leader Bo Xilai. Gu Kelai has admitted killing Neil Haywood. Suspended death sentences are normally commuted to sentences of up to 25 years or life in prison, subject to good behaviour in prison for 2 years. This statement came from Tang Nigan, an official with the Hai-Fai Intermediate Court in eastern China, and followed earlier comments from witnesses who had attended Monday's closed-door hearing. Zhang Zheijun, a Bo family aide, who admitted to helping Gu with Neil Haywood's murder last November, received a 9-year jail sentence, and 4 police officers who worked under Bo Xilai in Chongqing were then tried earlier this month and were found guilty of covering up the killing. They are named as Go Weizhou, Li Yang, Wang Pengfei and Wang Zi, and was sentenced to between 5 and 11 years in jail. Tang said at a media briefing it remains unclear whether Bo himself will be implicated at a later date. 2 more men have been arrested for being involved in the murder of a wealthy oil executive, Carol Waugh. Waugh, 50, was found stabbed to death in a car on the 2nd of August. A 55-year-old man and another, aged 39, were arrested in central London on Monday in connection with conspiracy to commit fraud, Scotland Yard said. Both were bailed to a date in early September pending further inquiries. 2 men have already been arrested in connection with the murder. Rakesh Bayani, aged 40, and Nicholas Kuttner, aged 47, have been accused. Bayani and Kuttner are also accused of fraud worth about £280,000 by forced representation following transactions associated with Waugh's identity. Carol Waugh lived and worked in Libya for a number of years, but returned to London in 2008 and would regularly visit relatives in Durham and Cumbria. Her former boss, Stuart Anderson, told journalists she had fled Libya after being threatened by someone in Colonel Muammar Gaddafi's regime, but a Scotland Yard spokesman has said inquiries are focused on London. So far, 13 people have been arrested in connection with the inquiry into her disappearance. At least 3 women have tried to pose as her since she vanished, police have said. Scotland Yard have investigated links to dating sites and appealed for information about the blue Volkswagen Golf in which Waugh's body was found. Euronews. Forest fires are raging in Greece. The island of Chios has been badly hit and remote areas and forests have been engulfed in flames. 17 fire engines tackled the blaze with around 40 volunteers helping out as well. Haldakiki has seen its ancient monastery community uprooted on one of its 3 peninsulas. In the last 7 days, fires have also ranged in the Canaries, killing wildlife and spouting miles of ash and smoke into the air. There are also forest fires ablaze on the Spanish mainland. Tourists have been warned over the escalating fires in the Canaries after 2 firefighters were killed last week. Last month, Portugal and Croatia were also hit by wildfires. A World at 8 reporter commented, "And still Merkel fiddles whilst Rome burns." The Eurozone crisis is going from bad to worse in layman's language. In financial terminology, the World at 8 has summed up a short list of what is currently going on. Finland is preparing for a break-up of the Eurozone. a €100 billion bill for UK if Greek crisis causes Eurozone breakup. Fuchs banks could handle a Greek exit from Eurozone. Spain's bad bank loans rise to record high, and the Mayor of Madrid has stated that it seems inevitable the central government would apply for some kind of international aid package as the country goes through a deep recession and borrowing costs soar. Meanwhile, Merkel is still making the Greeks suffer whilst mulling over easing Greece's bailout terms. Some reports have said that in a carefully thought out study it could actually be the Germans who bring the euro to a crashing end. World news. Pakistani authorities have arrested an 11-year-old Christian girl after she was accused of blasphemy and is being detained in the capital, Islamabad. The child is accused of desecrating pages from the Quran, officials have reported on Pakistani television. A police officer, Zabiullah, said on Monday that the girl was arrested on Thursday after hundreds of neighbours, angry over reports she had allegedly burnt religious papers, gathered outside her house in a poor outlying district of the capital, Islamabad. Some Muslims from the area claim the girl had burnt pages of the Quran, and we are investigating and we have not reached any conclusion, Ullah said. Whilst another official reported that she had a bag of partially burnt paper inside, but none were from the Quran. There are reports on whether the child is mentally handicapped or not, and her age ranges from 11 to 16 years, but she was unable to speak when brought to the station. This presenter says, "They need Profam out there. She is probably in shock, and if Christian, I doubt if her safety is guaranteed if returned home unharmed, which is unlikely. Poor little girl, where are her parents?" The Russian courts have sentenced the 3 members of the anarchistic band Pussy Riot to 2 years in prison for their anti-religious demonstration inside a church, of all places. The band that has been set up to draw attention and self-publicise themselves in and outside Russia have been dealt a fair deal. A World at 8 reporter commented, "They are supported by all the lefty liberal twats around the world, but if this had happened in Yemen or Pakistan in a mosque, they would have been killed without trial. These people choose their targets carefully. They would not dare to upset the militant Muslims. We Christians should be more militant and not turn the other cheek. Nowadays, that gets you nowhere. Good old Putin, I like that man." Thought for the day, Twittering and more. Now I am unashamedly a Facebook virgin. Haven't got a clue and have so far avoided tweeting or airing myself on the waves of the web, apart from the World at 8, which suits me very nicely, thank you. I have never had the urge to reveal my true character in all its ghastliness since enraging the mighty left with a short documentary which has gone into the annals of a thing never to be mentioned. I was described in one of these mailings as an idiot looking for a village, and to some extent they were absolutely right. I know now that anyone trying to take on the media in any shape or form is sadly doomed to failure and at best ridicule. The national media, and by that I'm including television, papers and the web in all its glory, are no-go areas for all nationalists. Not only are we banned from TV and papers very effectively by the National Union of Journalists for one, but they have strict guidelines on how to tackle us. I have taken some of their statements on race reporting and reporting racist organisations. Statement on race reporting. The NUJ believes that the development of racist attitudes and the growth of fascist parties pose a threat to democracy, the rights of trade union organisations, a free press and the development of social harmony and well-being. It also states, the NUJ believes its members cannot avoid a measure of responsibility in fighting the evil of racism as expressed through the mass media. The next one even had me puzzled. Immigrant is often used as a term of abuse. Do not use it unless the person really is an immigrant. Most black people in Britain were born here and most immigrants are white. Then we have the reporting racist organisations, and this is really Marxist inspired. Roll up, Mr. Stalin, your ship is in port. When interviewing representatives of racist organisations or reporting meetings or statements or claims, journalists should carefully check all reports for accuracy and seek rebutting or opposing comments. The antisocial nature of such views should be exposed. Then we have the British Association of Journalists, who do not seem to have an agenda set out, but who do encourage a large student membership with employment details as well as membership details. They still profess to publish the truth, etc., and are clearly failing in that one because the truth does not fit in with their overall agenda, which is Marxism and globalism, not democracy or freedom of speech in any shape or form. Well, not if you're a white person or a nationalist. You're simply not entitled to be heard. So it is with this in mind that many of us fly to the web, with Twitters, tweeters and Facebook. But you can meet your Waterloo in these places just when you think it is safe to go back in the water. Out come the sharks. In fact, I am seriously considered emailing Peter Hitchens and telling him to listen to the World at 8 because he seems to come out with the same ideas a couple of days later and it could save him time. I'm starting with the WikiLeaks debacle, which is currently occupying the space the Olympics occupied for some weeks. Julian Assange, who is Australian, should be sent to prison. It's simple. In June 2010, US soldier Bradley Manning leaked government files to WikiLeaks. July the 25th, more than 91,000 documents, most of them secret military reports about the war in Afghanistan, are posted online. October 23rd, even after Assange is questioned by Swedish police, 400,000 classified Iraqi military files are released. He was refused bail even though there were security pledges from Jemima Khan, Ken Loach and John Pilger, a real motley load of leftist lovies. On Saturday, senior diplomats privately condemned the Ecuadorian government, which they said had been captured by left-wingers who regard Assange as a hero because they hate the United States. Well, what a thing. The trouble is with the web and anything connected to it is that once something is on it, you cannot remove it. It is there for eternity. And we nationalists know only too well what that can lead to, lost jobs and more. The WikiLeaks fiasco has cost around £1 million so far, and it'll get more. Can we afford to pay for this idiot and the fellow idiots who support him? If all the secrets of the First and Second World Wars were out there for all to see, none of the Allies would come out of it shining any more than the Nazi regime did. Bombings of certain cities in the UK and Europe that did not need to be bombed, but still resulted in saving the lives of hundreds of troops, to name but one secret. Now we pass to Twitter and the internet trolls pointed out by Jeremy Clarkson. I like poor old Clarky. He speaks his mind, and that's not a good thing in the media nowadays. He has described Britain as a nation of 62 million complete and utter bastards, and he has a point. When you say something online about death or something sad that has affected you or your family, you're opening the door to ridicule, not sympathy. As indeed Clarky has found out to his cost. These people that hover unmercifully over their keyboards are not nice people. This is why most of them are stuck raging at the screen for most of the day or night. They do not have lives, they have keyboards, and have keyboard will travel, well at least into some poor bugger's brain. The one thing about the papers is that the journalists are not generally unidentified. They put their names to what they write, and they are honest enough in that. But these people who say the most terrible things to total strangers do so under the guise of anonymity, which is cowardice on an enormous scale. These social networking programs started out with the best possible intentions, making $1 per cash around people socialising online. Some years ago, no harm done, but gradually, over the years, it's changed drastically. Now, whether this is a reflection of our society and the global society, I do not know, but I think it must be relevant because a computer is just a machine and just does what it's told or what's entered into it. We have internet sexual grooming. We have unspeakable and depraved porn open to children and indeed featuring children. We have acts of cruelty perpetrated on children, animals and adults. We have freaks of nature and humanity, and I'm not talking about physical attributes here. In fact, Sodom and Gomorrah would have found a home on the web. Is it any wonder that when a person writes about the death of a family pet that they receive no sympathy at all? No, he receives a general attack of sheer nastiness. Liz Jones, another journalist, has suffered as well and no longer operates on Twitter. In fact, her statement is really indicative of the internet trolls. They are self-appointed thought police, wanting everyone to be humble and uncritical and unchallenging of the status quo. Isn't it interesting that the Russians and East Germans had to employ people to do this for them, when now the general British public are doing the job for free? You have to acknowledge that is a truism. I'm not suggesting that all people writing on these sites are trolls, but I would think that you have to be very careful of who you associate with in real life. If they're on one of these Roman gladiatorial sites, which is what they are in my opinion, up there with the X Factor, Big Brother and that Essex tripe, anything you do or say could end up being placed before millions of people for their input. Not a nice thought. The sad fact is that the more we devolve as human beings, the more man-made machines take over the cultural and social aspects of our society, or rather what used to be our society. You can say through a machine all sorts of filth which you would be prevented from in putting on a banner and demonstrating in person. You can stay in and not socialise with your fellows but replace them with cybermates online. You need never go out of the house to have so-called friends. In fact, nowadays, shopping, finding a mate, going to a cinema or a concert, ordering takeaway food, making a bomb, getting radicalised and forming mobs and riots can all be done over the social network. What fun! You need never lack social mobility, at least in one room. Ever wondered why our high streets are empty? Our malls not much better? Restaurants and pubs closing and giving way to takeaways? Attendances at meetings down? Most cities and villages dead in the water at 9 o'clock at night? That is apart from teeny clubs and drinking holes that vomit out their clientele all hours. The dual evils of social networking and immigration. It is the immigrants who buy up defunct restaurants and pubs and turn them into takeaways. immigrants who buy local shops and turn them into halal food stores and clothing shops for their own. Now, I'm not suggesting we go back to the Stone Age. I think computers are a wonderful invention. But as my dear mother used to say, give something to the masses, darling, and they'll cock it up. And she didn't have the problems we face from our cyber trolls and our enrichers. It's difficult to suggest that governments take the cyber trolls in hand because they and I would bleat about freedoms. But in faith, we have all lost our freedom of speech if it has come down to writings on a screen which are untraceable but can have devastating effects on those reading them. There is no freedom in that. It is more like an Orwellian nightmare. You simply cannot rely on human beings to keep standards, and once they slip they are gone forever, and the media they choose becomes soiled and unusable. Facebook shares have slipped and 2.2 billion wiped off its value. Following its listing, those who invested before flotation included Goldman Sachs, Microsoft and U2 frontman Bono, and they've been banned from selling their shares to sustain a 91-day lock-up period to provide stability for the shares, and this has now ended. What was that about global domination and ultra-wing Zionists? If people thought what their usage of certain things meant in money terms and who it funded, would they think before they use? No. And finally, a Las Vegas robber with a 3-foot-long Japanese samurai sword was shot dead on Sunday by a Dairy Queen clerk, police have reported. Metro Police said that the unidentified and unnamed man walked into the Dairy Queen fast food eatery at about 12:19 p.m. and the employee apparently fired at him twice, hitting him in the chest. The alleged robber was pronounced dead at Sunrise Hospital, the TV station said. The Las Vegas Sun reported Police Lieutenant Leslie Lane said he didn't think the employee, whose name also wasn't reported, would be charged. This presenter knows there's a joke about fast foods and swords, but just cannot think of it. Perhaps kebab comes to mind. There is an old Western adage, don't take a knife to a gunfight. You have been listening to The World at 8. I'm Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Headlines today, the 20th of August. Wife of Communist Party leader receives suspended death sentence. A total of 13 arrested so far in connection with oil executive's death. Europe is burning whilst the EU fiddles. Eurozone finances in brief. Christian girl 11 arrested in Pakistan. Pussy riot put behind bars, if only for their name. Thought for the day, Twitter, tweeting and troubles. And finally, prison for 2 years. This statement came from Tang Nigan, an official with the Hai-Fai Intermediate Court in eastern China, and followed earlier comments from witnesses who had attended Monday's closed-door hearing. Zhang Zhejian, a Bo family aide, who admitted to helping Gu with Neil Haywood's murder last November, received a 9-year jail sentence, and 4 police officers who worked under Bo Zilai in Chongqing were then tried earlier this month and were found guilty of covering up the killing. They are named as Guo Weizhou, Li Yang, Wang Pengfei and Wang Zi, and was sentenced to between 5 and 11 years in jail. Tang said at a media briefing it remains unclear whether Bo himself will be implicated at a later date. 2 more men have been arrested for being involved in the murder of a wealthy oiling. Dairy Queen kills samurai sword-wielding robber. UK News. The death sentence suspended for 2 years says that justice has been done for the British businessman killed by the wife of Communist Party political leader Bo Zilai. Gu Kelai has admitted killing Neil Haywood. Suspended death sentences are normally commuted to sentences of up to 25 years or life in prison, subject to good behaviour in